The Voyage to the Isle of Androids. Redbeard's ship, Ariadne's Fury, was anchored in the bay, its red sails billowing in the wind. Redbeard stood on the beach, talking with his crew as they prepared for their journey to the Isle of the Undead Androids. Redbeard, all right, listen up. We're expecting a group of Sisters of Pain to join us on this mission. Keep your hands to yourselves, and remember, these women are holy warriors. Show them respect, or you'll be answering to me. The crew nodded, some of them muttering nervously as they prepared to set sail. Redbeard stood on the deck of his ship, Ariadne's Fury, gazing out at the bay as he waited for the sisters to arrive. He had heard rumors of their prowess in battle, and he knew that they would be valuable allies in the fight against the undead androids. However, he also knew that they could be deadly enemies if provoked, and he didn't want any of his men to get on their bad side. As the sun began to set, the Sisters of Pain finally arrived, their black robes fluttering in the breeze. The sound of footsteps approaching from behind him alerted Redbeard to the arrival of the Sisters of Pain. He turned to see 4 women walking towards him, their faces hidden behind the hoods of their black robes. Redbeard had been expecting a larger group of nuns, but to his surprise, there were only 4 of them. The oldest of the sisters, Sister Sigrid, was stooped and wrinkled, and Redbeard guessed that she must be well over 100 years old. Despite her advanced age, she walked with a confident gait and there was a fire in her eyes that spoke of a lifetime of experience. Next to Sister Sigrid was Sister Giselle, the youngest of the group. Despite the somber attire of the sisters, Sister Giselle was a beautiful woman, with long, flowing blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. She seemed to radiate an inner strength and determination that Redbeard found intimidating. The other 2 sisters, Lilith and Isadora, were older women, but not as ancient as Sister Sigrid. They remained silent and stoic, their faces hidden in the shadows of their hoods. Redbeard cleared his throat and stepped forward to greet the sisters. "Welcome aboard the Ariadne's Fury," he said, trying to sound as cordial as possible. "I am Captain Redbeard, and these are my men. We will be your escort to the Isle of the Undead Androids." Sister Sigrid nodded in acknowledgement and spoke in a dry, husky voice. "Thank you for your assistance, Captain. We are ready to set sail and bring the final to the undead." Redbeard turned to Giselle, his brow furrowed. "I don't mean to be disrespectful, sister, but where are the rest of your sisters? I was expecting a much larger force to join us on this mission." Giselle gave Redbeard a knowing look. "We are the Saints of Death, Captain. We are a small group, but we are more than capable of handling the androids. Trust us." Redbeard was not convinced, but he knew better than to argue with a Sister of Pain. He nodded and turned back to his crew. "All right, then. Let's set sail for the Isle. And remember, keep your distance from the sisters. They are not to be trifled with." Redbeard nodded and gestured towards the ship. "Then let us be on our way. But be warned, sisters, the androids are fierce creatures, and we will need all of our wits about us if we are to succeed in this mission." The sisters nodded in unison and followed Redbeard aboard the Ariadne's Fury, ready to set sail towards the Isle of the Undead Androids. The crew nodded and set to work, hoisting the sails and preparing the ship for the journey ahead. Redbeard stood at the bow, his hand on his blunderbuss, ready for whatever lay ahead. As the days passed and the ship sailed on, Redbeard regaled the Sisters of Pain with tales of his adventures on the high seas. Despite his reputation as a notorious pirate, he was a skilled storyteller, and the sisters were captivated by his tales of treasure, danger, and narrow escapes. However, even Redbeard eventually ran out of stories, and the crew grew restless. Luckily, Redbeard was known for his ability to stretch the truth, and his stories never stayed the same for long. As the ship sailed on, the sisters listened intently to each new iteration, eagerly anticipating the next twist or turn in the tale. After several days, as the day was dimming, a cry rang out from the crow's nest of Ariadne's Fury, the pirate ship sailed by Redbeard and his crew. "Ship ahoy! It's the ghost ship!" Redbeard, a seasoned pirate with many years and tales under his belt, tensed at the cry, and shivers went down his spine. Redbeard hesitated, his hand hovering over the hilt of his sword. "I've faced that ship before," he said gruffly. "It's not a foe to be taken lightly. It's crewed by the damned, and they'll fight like demons to keep us away. Are you sure you and your sisters are ready for this?" Sigrid nodded confidently. "We are the Saints of Death, Captain. We have faced worse and come out victorious. We will not let this ghost ship haunt us any longer. Redbeard looked at the determination in Sigrid's eyes and knew he couldn't turn her down. Very well, then, he said, drawing his sword. Let's send these ghosts back to the depths from whence they came. Captain called out to his crew, ordering them to prepare for battle. As Sister Sigrid spoke, the other 3 Sisters of Pain joined her on deck. The group began to pray, their voices blending in a haunting chorus. The words of their ancient faith flowed from their lips, and the power of their goddess filled the air. Redbeard watched in amazement as the sisters' prayer seemed to call forth a divine energy, a power that he had never before witnessed. He knew then that the sisters were more than just skilled warriors, they were holy beings, imbued with the power of the goddess. And with that realization came a fierce determination to do whatever it took to defeat the ghost ship and banish its evil from the world. With a battle cry, the Sister of Pain and the pirates of the Ariadne's Fury charged towards the ghost ship, ready to do battle with the forces of darkness. Later, much later, Captain would sit in the rusty anchor tavern, nursing his ale and telling tales of his adventures on the high seas. A hush would fell over the crowd as he would begin to speak of the encounter with the ghost ship. We were sailing on Ariadne's Fury, minding our own business, when suddenly we saw it on the horizon, the ghost ship. I'd seen it before, many years ago, and I knew it was a foe not to be taken lightly. But Sister Sigrid, she was having none of it. She insisted we attack, said we couldn't let that cursed ship reach shore and spread its evil. So, reluctantly, I gave the order to pursue and engage. And as we closed in, the Sisters of Pain gathered on deck and began to pray. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. The air grew heavy and the sky grew dark, and suddenly it felt like we were sailing straight into the beyond. And then, as if summoned by the sisters' prayers, the souls of the damned began to emerge from the shadows. They came pouring out from behind Ariadne's Fury, a writhing mass of agony and despair. And they swarmed over the ghost ship like a horde of hungry demons, reclaiming their earthly remnants and dragging the cursed crew down to the depths of the sea. It was a sight I'll never forget, and I'm lucky to have come out of it alive. But I'll always be grateful to the Sisters of Pain for their help in vanquishing that evil from the world. It wasn't until later that I realized just how much we had lost, when the ghost ship sank beneath the waves, taking its treasure with it. But in the end, it was worth it. The ghost ship was finally laid to rest, and we were able to bring balance back to the world. And that, my friends, is a tale worth telling. As Redbeard came to his senses, he found himself standing on the deck of the Ariadne's Fury, surrounded by the Sisters of Pain. Sister Gazelle was speaking to him, her voice soft but firm. "Captain, are you with us?" she asked. Redbeard shook his head, trying to clear the fog that had settled over his mind. "Yes, I'm here," he replied. Gazelle nodded, her expression relieved. "Good. We've won the battle, but the journey is far from over. We must continue on to the Isle of the Undead Androids and put an end to the Dark Mage's experiments." Redbeard stood on the deck of Ariadne's Fury, still dazed from the battle with the ghost ship. Sister Gazelle approached him, a triumphant look on her face. "Well done, Captain," she said. "The ghost ship is sinking, and our mission is complete. We should celebrate." Redbeard nodded absently. "Aye, we should." Sister Sigrid joined them, carrying a jug of grog. "Here you are, Captain. Drink to our victory." Redbeard took the jug and drank deeply. As the warmth of the alcohol flowed through him, he began to feel more like himself. "So, what now?" he asked. "Now, we celebrate," Sister Lilith said, her eyes sparkling. "We have a ceremony of flagellation to attend to. It's a tradition among the Sisters of Pain to whip ourselves as a sign of penitence and devotion to the goddess of death." "Sisters," Redbeard said, shaking his head. "I don't think my crew is used to this kind of celebration. And as for me, I think I'll stick to a nice mug of grog." Sister Gazelle chuckled. "Captain, you and your men are welcome to join us in our ceremony of flagellation if you'd like. It's a way for us to show our devotion to the goddess and to offer up our pain in her honor." Redbeard raised an eyebrow. "I think we'll pass on that, sister. But we'll certainly join you in raising a toast to victory." The sisters nodded, and together, they all raised their mugs in celebration. Redbeard couldn't help but feel a sense of camaraderie with these warrior women, even if their customs were a bit foreign to him. As the days passed on the sea, the voyage seemed to drag on forever. The endless expanse of water seemed to stretch out in all directions, and the horizon was always just out of reach. Finally, as the Ariadne's Fury approached the Isle of Undead Androids, the crew could see the devastation that had befallen the once great civilization. The ruins of factories and buildings lay in ruins, and the air was filled with the smell of rust and decay. Redbeard stood at the helm of the ship, his eyes narrowed as he surveyed the scene before him. He had heard tales of the undead androids and their relentless pursuit of destruction, and he knew that this would not be an easy fight. Sister Gazelle stood at his side, her hand on her sword as she watched the isle with a steely determination. She had pledged her life to the Sisters of Pain, and she was ready to do whatever it took to bring an end to the undead androids and their curse. Sister Sigrid and Sister Lilith stood on the other side of the ship, their eyes fixed on the isle as they prepared for battle. These four Sisters of Pain were the Saints of Death, and they were determined to bring an end to the undead androids and restore balance to the world. Redbeard turned to the sisters and nodded, his hand on the hilt of his sword. "It's time to end this," he said grimly. "Are you ready?" The sisters nodded, their eyes flashing with determination. "We are ready, Captain," Sister Gazelle said, her voice firm. "Let's bring an end to these undead androids and their curse." With a fierce battle cry, the sisters and the crew of the Ariadne's Fury charged towards the Isle of Undead Androids, ready to do whatever it took to bring an end to this curse once and for all.